The Jungle Led the Way to the FDA by Hopie''s. Yum! A big juicy steak with all the trimmings. Who doesn't love to sit down to a wonderful meal like that? Well, most of us love the meal, but spend little time thinking about where it comes from. When we do take the time to think about it, we think pleasant thoughts. It's lovely to imagine a warm green pasture on a beautiful farm in the country. We picture healthy, strong cattle lying about as though they are at a spa, waiting their time. Oh, sure, the thought of killing them is terrible, but they have such peaceful, pleasant lives that we can forget about that part. But the reality is quite different. This photo depicts a holding pen in 1902. The cattle were kept in these hot, grassless cages with nowhere to walk or rest. They were exposed to unclean air and crowded conditions for weeks while they waited their fate, the long walk to the slaughterhouse. Upton Sinclair was born on September 20th, 1878, in Baltimore, Maryland. He was a writer, albeit a failure as one. He wrote 4 unsuccessful novels between 1901 and 1903 before writing social propaganda. His first subject was the meatpacking strike in Chicago. He observed the Chicago meat industry for 2 months and then sat down to write The Jungle. The Jungle was a novel about a Lithuanian immigrant working in packing town, which is what Upton Sinclair called the Chicago meat stockyards. The main character, Jurgis Rutkus, was a compilation of different foreign immigrants that Sinclair met during his time touring the stockyards. The working conditions were appalling in the yards as well as the meat packing plants. The plants were staffed with foreign-born workers. They made wages that were comparable to what slaves made, and they worked 12-hour days. The workers were not treated much better than the cattle. If a man was injured on the job or he fell sick, he was simply sent away and replaced with the next able-bodied man awaiting for an opportunity to work. There were no second chances and no compassion for these workers, who had to live in cramped, hot quarters with their entire families. The Jungle was written to build a public awareness of the way the workers were treated, but it actually had another, unintended effect. For one 8-page section of The Jungle, Sinclair went into great detail about the cleanliness of the plants. He described seeing rats and garbage all over the floors, as well as insects and blood. He graphically tells how workers shoveled rats, bits of glass, and garbage into sausage grinding machines to be mixed in with the meat. Unregulated inspectors were bribed to look the other way while rotten meat, guts, and dirt were gathered off the floor and mixed into the canned ham. It was these 8 pages of blunt description that riled people up. Sinclair said, "I aimed at the public's heart, and by accident hit it in the stomach." Theodore Roosevelt was president during this time. He was encouraged to read The Jungle and for a while had no interest in doing so, calling the book untrue propaganda. When he finally read an advanced copy, he was disgusted. Roosevelt sent his own agents to see if Sinclair's claims were true and was shocked to hear that they were far worse than what was portrayed in The Jungle. With the focus of attention being on the quality of food and not on working conditions, the United Packing House Workers of America was formed to try and improve working conditions, but that problem remained secondary in the eyes of the public. Roosevelt put all his efforts into legislation for the Pure Food and Drug Act, but Congress was slow to listen and act on it. Roosevelt then released some of the report from the Department of Agriculture to the public, and Congress was forced to respond. On June 30th, 1906, the Pure Food and Drug Act became a law. The law prohibited diseased and spoiled foods from being used. There could also be no added ingredients to reduce quality or safety. Official government inspectors would be responsible for all inspections. There would be no more privately hired inspectors. Sinclair wrote a letter to Roosevelt supporting the use of federal inspectors. In the letter, he recommended that inspectors disguise themselves as workers so they would be able to see everything, and not just what plant managers wanted them to see. Sinclair himself used that tactic when researching The Jungle. Following inspections, offending food would be seized by the government, and offending people would be fined or put in jail. The Pure Food and Drug Act, together with the jungle, created a new kind of journalism called investigative journalism, which is still used today to uncover injustices. Roosevelt coined the term muckrakers to describe these type of journalists. Recently, a stamp was created commemorating President Roosevelt's involvement in the creation of the Pure Food and Drug Act. He was instrumental in increasing the public awareness of public safety of American food. The Pure Food and Drug Act led to the formation of the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, which is still in existence today. The FDA is responsible for regulating food, drugs, medical devices, volatile substances, cosmetics, and hazardous substances available in the USA. Its goal is to protect the health and safety of all consumers. If Upton Sinclair had never written The Jungle, we as Americans would not enjoy the assurance that all things we put in or on our bodies are healthy and safe.